The Cincinnati Reds are on an 8-game losing streak. David Bell is the boss, and the buck stops with the boss. Today, we're talking hot seat. Should David Bell's job be in jeopardy? We've got that live for you on today's Locked On Reds.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Reds, and my name is Jeff Carr. His name is Steve Offenbaker. We are lifelong Cincinnati Reds fans that have turned an addiction to this team into information for you. I want to thank you for making Locked On Reds part of your day here on this Friday live show. I encourage you, if you're watching here on YouTube, live with us, make sure you jump down into the comments section. Give us your questions, give us your thoughts, give us your comments, give us your vote. We have a poll in the live show comment section right now. Should the Reds fire David Bell? Yes or no? Give us your vote, and we'll update you on the results of that as we go along. On today's podcast, we're going to discuss a number of things as the Reds are now out on the West Coast, the 10-game West Coast road trip, the behemoth, the final boss, as it were, of this gauntlet of a schedule that the Reds have had for the month of May begins tonight. We're going to preview the series by the Bay. Also, there is a breakout that is currently happening for the Reds in the lineup. Yes, I know it's going to be weird. We're going to talk about something positive. I know that nobody wants to hear positives right now. They just want to hear scorched earth and angry ramblings of fans that are disgruntled. But I'm telling you, I'm completely gruntled. We're not disgruntled at all. Because we're going to start today, Steve, with this thought, because there have been many that have wondered, and there have been many that have asked, should the Reds be considering, and I don't even necessarily know if it's like right now, but like, should David Bell's seat be warm? In fact, you came to me with this idea because I believe you think it should.
I think he should definitely be feeling the heat, and I think that Nick Krall should definitely be putting the pressure on him at this point. You know, I don't believe, should they make him feel that way, and will they fire him? No, they won't fire him right now. They just signed him to an extension. There's lots of reasons why they're not going to just fire him right now. However, this team is performing disappointing for even what we expected it to do after the suspensions and injuries. Then you get David Bell, who comes out to a press conference for a team that has now been swept 2 series in a row, for a team that has lost 8 games in a row, for a team that seems to be that it will struggle hitting against the Bearcats right now. You get that manager that comes out to the podium and like, the guys that they're doing great. Yes,
they're close.
They're very close. They're going to break out because they're very close. And obviously we want to perform better. Like, no, it's time for him to show a little fire. I can't believe that in real life he goes around talking like that and acting like that. I just don't see it. It's time for him to understand that the buck stops with him, and that he needs to start providing some answers for why this team is performing so poorly. He needs to give us specific things. He needs to let us, if he had just come out and said, obviously, an 8-game losing streak is unacceptable. I'm feeling it. The players are feeling it. Our coaching staff is working with each player individually to identify the areas that they need to work on and improve upon. For example, Stuart Fairchild made a terrible decision on the base pass, and we're going to work with him so that doesn't happen again. Tell us what the hitting coaches are doing. Everybody keeps asking, where are the hitting coaches? We have a hitting coach. We have an assistant hitting coach. What we don't have is any hitters. So what are the hitting coaches doing to address the situation? We don't hear any of that. And I get that on the everyday, David Bell's not going to come out to a podium and throw players under the bus. But it is his job as the manager, as the director of this situation, to tell us a little bit about what's going on right now and let us see you understand that what's happening is unacceptable.
What if I told you he said a version of that yesterday? I didn't
listen to the whole thing. There was no passion there.
Here's the quote, direct quote. "It's all my responsibility. It's a player's game for sure, but of course that's my job. We're all definitely working hard. It's a team effort. We came up short today. The big thing for us is it's no more than that. We came up short, but we can't continue to dwell on that." So there's a version, it's measured. And David Bell is never going to come out and be calling out players or anything like that. I found it interesting, and I wish I could have clipped this as well. There was a quote from Oliver Marmol, St. Louis Cardinals manager, after they lost to the Brewers last night, and he was saying basically what some folks want David Bell to say. He was just like, our lineup has to figure it out. Injuries are not an excuse. We have to come together. And it's things like that I'm like, sure, that's nice for the fans, but David Bell does everything for the players. David Bell's a player manager to a fault when it comes to his approach to this game. But I also ask you this, Steve. What is David Bell's responsibility in all of this? Because I get it. The buck stops with him. He's the manager. But is he the sole person that decides on the lineup? Is he the sole person that decides on the pitching changes? Is he the sole person that makes the roster choices? Because the answer to all three of those questions is no. The lineups are a collaborative effort with Jeff Pickler, who is their key analytics strategist guy. The pitching staff is a collaborative effort with Derek Johnson. And of course, the roster really stops with Nick Krall. The whole thing with management of injuries and playing shorthanded and stuff like that. It's not so much David Bell as it is Nick Krall. So for anybody that is saying, yes, it's time to get rid of David Bell, or yes, the seat should be hot, I would ask you then, does everyone's seat need to be hot? Because David Bell is not the only one making these decisions.
I don't know that everyone's hot. I mean, the pitching staff has looked great. There have been some individual meltdowns in there, but Derek Johnson is seemingly doing his job fairly well. And we hear about the things that Derek Johnson has done with the pitchers. I ask you again, what have you heard that any of the hitting instruction that goes on with this team is doing to address this situation? What one blurb has any beat writer put out? And we know the Reds are notoriously tight-lipped and control the narrative around what comes out of that clubhouse. What have you heard? We've heard nothing. They aren't addressing it at all. They aren't going anywhere near it. It's historically bad, and they're not talking about it at all. And that's where I have the problem. Yes, there is a collaboration of deciders that put in information and bring stuff to David Bell. But at the end of the day, it's his door that says manager on it. And I don't know that I'm saying fire him right now, Jeff. I mean, I don't think I am. If we had done this yesterday, it might have been a different conversation, because I was pretty ticked off after the game yesterday.
The benefits of sleeping on things. Yes, absolutely. Correct.
But there definitely needs to be some acknowledgement from the team, from everyone on the team, from Nick Krall down, an acknowledgement of just how unacceptable the situation is right now.
My last point, at least for right now, I mean, certainly time will tell as to how all of this proceeds. But my final point on this, because I was looking at the last time that the Reds fired somebody midseason, we all remember it well, Brian Price. How many years did Brian Price manage this team?
Oh, put me on the spot. I don't remember. It was
four whole seasons, and then he was fired 18 games into his fifth season. How many years did he have a winning record?
Well, he didn't have a winning record.
Never did. David Bell's had 2. David Bell's not getting fired midseason. Like the way for anybody that is clamoring and pounding the table and standing on soapboxes or whatever. Which, by the way, soapboxes are small. Why do we call soapboxes like a thing? Like maybe crates. So
that's a different.
Anyway,
that's a different podcast. Jeff.
Different podcast. But for anybody that's getting all up in arms about this, like the way that the Reds get rid of David Bell will be in between seasons, and he just got a contract extension.
Yeah,
this offseason.
And a point to that before we get out of this segment. When the time comes, and I'm not saying it's going to be now. I just want them to put some fire to him. When the time comes, David Bell will never be fired by this team. He will either leave of his own volition or be promoted. Right. But the Bell Castellini dynamic is such that he's not going to be fired.
He'll be promoted, and maybe Barry Larkin or something takes over, or something like that.
All right, Jeff. We're going to talk a lot more about this when we get into the comment sections, because I know that this is really weighing heavily on a lot of Reds country right now. But it is not all bad. And we're not going to throw all sunshine and kittens either. We're going to call it like it is. But coming up, there is an important breakout to talk about. And we're going to get into that right after this.
Everydayers will know I wear t-shirts every day. And quite frankly, this is the only dress shirt that I wear. The only dress shirt that I own, and it's from Stitch Fix. Trust me on this one, when you're talking about a guy like me that, quite honestly, my style is my team, Stitch Fix is the way to go if you're trying to revamp your wardrobe. You should check out Stitch Fix today. They've got all kinds of great options for you, and the way that it works, you get set up with a Stitch Fix stylist. All you have to do is send them your size, your style, and your budget preferences, and they do the rest. You can order a box from Stitch Fix with 5 just for you pieces. You keep what you want and you send back the rest. Check out Stitch Fix today because they've got style that makes you feel as good as you look. You can get started today at stitchfix.com/MLB and get $20 off your first fix. That's stitchfix.com/MLB for $20 off. stitchfix.com/MLB must redeem within 7 days of sign up.
Is there a Stitch Fix box that says athletic gear and 80s cartoon t-shirts for style? That would be the box I would have to check.
They do have t-shirts. They're nicer looking than what you and I typically wear, but yes. Yeah.
All right. You can listen. The Locked On Network has launched a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed just for you. Locked On Sports Today. They bring you the biggest stories. They bring you analysis. They bring you opinions. They bring you news 24/7 right here on YouTube or for free on the Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day streaming 24/7. Go check it out when you're done here. All right, Jeff. That first segment is not fun. And I don't think a lot of us are having any fun right now. 8-game losing streak is not fun.
It's really sapped the life out of it.
Help us.
Let's have a little positivity because you and I and it was really just a couple of days ago I felt like we talked about this, but you and I have talked about Jeimer Candelario quite a bit. The fact that he just hasn't hit. The fact that he has been not necessarily an automatic out, but mostly an automatic out for much of the season. But the last 8 games, yes, I know it's a small sample size, but he has made some hay. Dude has gone off. In the last 8 games, Steve, he has 11 hits. 2 of those are doubles, 2 of those are homers, so 4 extra base hits in those 11. And he only has 4 total strikeouts. That was the thing that he was doing quite a bit early on this season, swinging over top of breaking balls and things like that. He's a guy that we said, he's a notoriously slow starter. The month of April has never been kind to him in his career. And it looks like he's actually supporting that theory because these last 8 days he's rose his batting average up 57 points.
You called this. I was worried. I said I was worried. I didn't want to.
I wavered. I'm not going to say I didn't waver. I definitely wavered on that.
Yeah, I mean, I was worried, but you called this and you supported it with the May numbers, and it gave me pause. It walked me back a couple steps. And you were absolutely right. You nailed this. It seems that he is heating up, and he's heating up right around the time you said that he would. That his numbers historically supported. The thing now we'll need to see is more guys do it. We need more than just one guy hot at the same time. And this is going to naturally, I know you wanted this to be a positive segment, but it's going to naturally lead into some of the lineup decisions that have been made over the last couple weeks that are just a little bit of head scratchers. You've got a player in Tyler Stevenson that has more barrels than anybody else in Major League Baseball in his last, 100 swings. And he gets set down for Luke Maile for no good reason. I mean, I know that at the catcher position, you provide rest for your guy, but it's May. He doesn't need to sit down every other day yet in order to stretch him to the playoffs. You need to be worried about being in position to make the playoffs, and they're in a big old hole right now. Tyler Stevenson should be playing.
And we asked him, what's your magic number? and he said like 120 games, didn't he? He said, I'm
he
ready to
did.
go.
He said he could catch 120 games and feel comfortable. So, and that's a direct quote from his mouth. That's not us speculating.
Right.
That interview is in our archives. Go check it out. So Jamer's going to need some help around him. And part of the problem is when any one individual hitter has gotten hot, like Jamer's getting hot right now.
Yep.
It's only been that one guy. We haven't had a couple guys go on a heater at the same time. First, it was Spencer Steer and nobody else. Then it was Ellie and nobody else. Right now, it's Jamer and nobody else. Got to get these guys all cooking together, and I'm hoping that as we drift into May, and maybe they're feeling a little bit of urgency now, going on this West Coast trip with an 8-game losing streak, that maybe it'll happen for them. Maybe they'll find a way to catch lightning in the bottle, because what Candelario is doing now, if this is who he's going to be, if this is really who he's going to be now, then I have no problem with him in the lineup every day.
Yeah, and he should definitely get a look a little bit higher. I mean, he was batting below some interesting guys in this last series, but yeah, you got 2 back-to-back multi-hit games for him. He had 3 hits. In fact, he was a guy that I think, except for the 9th inning rally, Jamer Candelario got left on base in every inning. Yeah, because he had 3 hits and he had no runs scored in that second game against Arizona, because I remember like writing down the innings that the Reds ended with somebody in scoring position and they got stranded there, and it was like Candelario 3 out of the 4 times. But he is definitely coming around, which is an important thing as well, Steve, because of the loss of Christian Encarnacion Strand. And the whole thing with that, and I did want to address this because I saw very early on, shout out to Carrie, she asked us this question. She said, I think the CES situation was either 1, poorly handled by all involved, or 2, a ghost IL situation that was created to get him off the roster. What do you think? I think it's clearly 1. Now, the ghost IL situation, he was bad, and I still said that there were elements of a breakout that I saw. He just hadn't done it yet. But I think it was poorly handled. I don't think they're trying to get him out of there.
I got a couple thoughts on that, Jeff. The first one is I want to talk about this ghost IL situation, because I know we talk about this sometimes, and mostly with pitchers. For a ghost IL situation to work, remember that the player and the team have to be in cahoots on that, because if they're not, and the team's like, oh, he's hurt, the guy just has got to be like, no, I'm not hurt. I don't know what's going on. And I think the pitchers, I can see pitchers cooperating with that if they need a rest, if they need to miss a turn, if they need to, I can see that. I don't see hitters going along with that so much. I agree with you. I think this is very highly likely an all involved are to blame situation here. I imagine that CES needed to be protected from himself. That wrist has hurt this whole time, and he was doing the I'm good to go, I can play, it's not that bad. He was doing that thing. Management didn't do their job in protecting CES from himself, because they had this information since they took the x-rays in Texas. So this is not a surprise. This is not an injury they didn't know about. So management is complicit in allowing CES to do that. And then it brings me back to where we end up with a lot of these injuries. What in the world is this medical staff doing? At this point, they need to start over. I know that they cleaned house a few years back. Clearly, they got it wrong. I'm done tiptoeing around this. They need to start over with the training staff. Go get all new people and see if even if it's just a luck changer, to bring in a new set of eyes and a new way of doing things, and maybe get this team a little bit more healthy.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. I saw multiple people, tweeting to the effect after Luke Maile got hit on the hand by the pitch in the finale with Arizona. They said, all right, putting a calendar invite for 10 days from now to actually give an x-ray on that hand to see exactly if it's okay or not. But I was like, that's kind of funny. I saw the explanation that swelling was around where the fracture in his wrist was, and so that the swelling would prevent the x-ray from like seeing it and stuff. But based on the reporting, I don't know the timeline, and I don't know if there was just an unreported x-ray, but based on the reporting, he was x-rayed after it first happened, swelling blocked that. Then he wasn't x-rayed again until they put him on the IL. Like, before you put him in the lineup, I think you would have given him an x-ray. I don't know. That could be just speculation on my part, but based on what I read and based on what I heard, they did not do that. They did not x-ray him before putting him back in the lineup. So that is a point to your assertion of what is going on with this training staff, and how they handle Luke Maile going forward is going to be interesting, because I've seen some folks say, and I looked at it the other day, PJ Higgins is actually hitting pretty well down in AAA, and I think PJ Higgins can catch. It's either Higgins or Austin Wynn. There's a couple of guys down there that provide emergency depth.
Right, and Austin Wynn's a good defensive catcher. I mean, he's not going to light it up offensively, but he can handle himself behind the dish. So
i.e. you don't have to play shorthanded. You could call one of these guys up. So I'll be interested to see how they move forward with this. Obviously, they don't have to make an announcement for a little bit yet. We still are 7 hours away from the Reds having first pitch. Hashtag late night Reds. But as they're on the bay. But when it comes to Candelario's breakout and what it means for the rest of this roster, you're right. Like, even if I were looking at the glass half full right now with this lineup, that is the assessment, is that, yeah, the lineup has worked because at one point Spencer Steer was hitting 400. Then at another point, Ellie De La Cruz was hitting 400. And now Jeimer Candelario is about hitting 400, but none of them did that together. And there was all like a little bit of a gap in between those things happening. And that is really where this big struggle has come from. And I think that the Reds have a good shot here. As much as we have belabored this road trip and as much as we have said this is going to be tough, they are facing a San Francisco Giants team that is a bit on the downslope right now. So they were facing that with Arizona as well. We'll see exactly how they can kind of get out of that, because I do have some encouraging numbers as we head into this series, which we will really break down coming up next. Today's episode is brought to you in part by Policygenius. Policygenius is the smarter way to buy insurance. Their proprietary technology makes it easy to compare personalized quotes and policies from top-rated insurers side by side. With Policygenius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. Policygenius' team of licensed experts is here to answer questions, handle paperwork, and help you make decisions with confidence. They work for you, not for the insurance companies. From exploring coverage options to making policy adjustments as your life changes, Policygenius is your advocate at every step. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com/LockedOnMLB or click the link in the description of today's episode to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/LockedOnMLB. This Mother's Day, get something thoughtful for mom with DoorDash. Surprise her from wherever you are with fresh bouquets, the latest tech, gift cards, self-care treats, and more to make her day that much better. Use code LOCKEDONMLB to get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next flower, convenience, grocery, or retail order, now on DoorDash. Pair flowers with a gift card so she can celebrate any way she wants. Is she a bookworm? Try a bookstore gift card. Does she love a good latte? Get the gift of her favorite coffee shop. You can't go wrong with DoorDash. Plus, you get the convenience of shopping on your phone, so you don't have to be on the road trying to find whatever place is open that might happen to have something that she possibly likes. Trust me, I've been there. Sorry, Mom, that was years ago. Trust me, years ago. Order now and get everything you need for Mother's Day on DoorDash. Use code LOCKEDONMLB to get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 or more in your next flower, convenience, grocery, or retail order, now on DoorDash. That's LOCKEDONMLB. Order using DoorDash today. Terms apply. You can catch every pitch of the Reds' hometown broadcast during this West Coast swing with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Reds. And also, by the way, for some great written Reds content, check out CincinnatiRedsTalk.com. That's right, we got a much better URL that's far easier to say than si.com/MLB/Reds. It's CincinnatiRedsTalk.com. Steve's over there, I'm over there, Caleb Sisk, James Rapine, Austin Elmore, Rick Uccino, a lot of great folks writing about the Reds at CincinnatiRedsTalk.com. Make sure you bookmark that today. All right, Steve, the Reds are headed into this 10-game West Coast road trip, and we've got the Giants on tap to begin this trip. It's going to be 3 games by the Bay. And quite frankly, we had 2 games where the Reds actually hit a little bit. I'm not saying that they hit good. They hit a little bit. But they're coming out of this slump that is just absolutely ridiculously bad. And I wanted to look at this before we really dove into the series itself, because to start this year, looking at another team in this season who has broken out of a team-wide slump, the Minnesota Twins, the way that they started their season, in their first 20 games, they went 7-13, and they had a team-wide batting average of 196, and they averaged 3.3 runs per game. Actually, a few more, like a little bit, almost a run per game more than what the Reds are averaging during this slump. So awful lineup. Then the next 17 games, Steve, of course, they went on a huge winning streak, but the next 17 games, they went 15-2 up to today. They're back, fighting with the Guardians for the top of the AL Central. It's because as a team, in the last 17 games, they're hitting 292 and they're averaging 6.6 runs per game. So it can be done. You can swing, and that's kind of how this whole thing with baseball does. You can swing the other way where you were slumping and you weren't scoring runs and it was just out after out after out and really tough to watch some baseball games. You can turn it around, and I think that the Reds, on paper, are comparable to the Minnesota Twins. So I think that this could start here in San Francisco.
Yeah, the Reds have a couple things going for them that could help turn the tide. The first thing is I like the pitching matchups. I like the way the starting rotation shakes out in this 3-game series out in San Francisco. Andrew Abbott is going tonight, followed by Nick Lodolo, and then Frankie Montas in the series finale for the Reds. That's a good 1-2-3 to punch through in San Francisco. Now, San Francisco, if you've been to AT&T Park, is it still AT&T Park? I don't know where San Francisco plays their baseball games. If you've been there, it's not always conducive to high offensive output, depending on what the weather's doing there, depending on what's going on. So I don't know that it'll necessarily be high scoring games that will snap the offense out of it, but I think that the way that the rotation's shaking out, the Reds are going to be in every one of these 3 games. And, anything can happen when you're in the game. They need something to be a confidence builder. They need something to flip that switch. And hopefully the starting pitching is what is going to be able to do it for them, because I do think we match up well with the Giants, the way the rotation has shaken out.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because I know that Kyle Harrison made his major league debut last year against the Cincinnati Reds and pitched really, really well. He's going to be pitching on Sunday. And then you have Logan Webb, who was a Cy Young finalist last year. Was it last year or 2 years ago? But he's pitched really well the last couple of years. He's going to be going tonight for the Giants. So that's going to be interesting to see. He's an extreme ground ball pitcher. That's going to be kind of a tough matchup for this team, but that was something also that I noted with the Twins' breakout offensive. It didn't matter. I mean, sure, they played the White Sox during this 17-game stretch that their lineup has just gone insane, but they also played some good teams too. I mean, there was the Rangers in there. They played the Guardians in there as well. So it's not as if like a good swing, a hot streak is beholden to who your opponent is. Just because you're playing bad teams automatically means you're going on a hot streak. Not exactly. Sometimes you could be in a slump against those bad teams. So I really think that the Reds have a shot here. And I was asked this question, and I'm curious to you, because I think that a successful road trip, and obviously this first series is going to be very key to how this road trip goes, because I think that the Giants of these 3 teams is the most gettable series. I honestly think that a successful road trip for the Reds is going 4-6 in these next 10 games.
That's probably fair. I'm right there. 5-5 would be beautiful at this point. So 4-6.
Don't lose any more ground. That'd be nice.
Yeah, I think 4-6 is realistic. 5-5, I think we could hope for that. A winning road trip, it would feel miraculous right now. I would feel miraculous. But you're right. This San Francisco series sets the tone. The first 2 games are against right-handed pitchers. Only one lefty going in this series for the Giants, so that is a benefit to the Reds lineup. A lot of left-handed batting, Ellie, I think it will be helpful. So, clearly I'm not saying they're going to sweep the Giants. So, but let's just say they can win those 2 games against right-handed pitching and take 2 of 3 against the Giants heading back into Arizona. I'm not necessarily looking at the Arizona series as, well, this is another, they're going to get swept again. I don't think that's going to happen. So they could pick up another, that's a 3-game series. I know last week I said it was a 4-game series. The Dodger series is the 4-game series. So let's say they take 2 of 3 in San Francisco, win another one in Arizona. At least that's 3 wins. You got to get 1 from the Dodgers to be 4-6. If you could somehow muster a split, which at times they have played well against the Dodgers and shocked us all. They did it last year. Not unheard of.
That's true.
If they could split there, then you're at 5-5. So I mean, it's not, you got to squint to see it. You got to squint to see 5-5, Jeff, but it could happen.
It's crazy to think that, like, all you have to do is just go out there and make some hits. And like the thing that it was really distracting me, because you mentioned Ellie hitting left-handed. Imagine Ellie just hitting a gap line drive in the San Francisco outfield, like triple easy inside the park home run, maybe. This could be kind of interesting. Like, going deep in San Francisco is kind of hard to do the way that it's set up, and you're at the bay and sometimes the wind's working against you and that's a big outfield. But Ellie doesn't have to hit the ball over the wall to round the bases. We know that to be the case. So I got to believe when he's up, the outfield is going to be playing pretty deep, and they're going to be playing no doubles whatsoever with him. So I could see him managing a couple of multi-hit games where it's just like single after single after single. He probably hits the ball 110 miles an hour, but it bounces in front of an outfielder, and they try to limit him to just one bag, because I can't imagine there's going to be a situation where the Giants are going to be aggressive on a ball that he hits to the outfield.
Yeah, I agree completely. But one play like that could be the spark. One Ellie De La Cruz play could be what flips the switch for this team. So let's hope we see it. Let's that's what's going to be. Ellie's going to get a triple or an inside the Parker, and that's going to just change everything for us. Clearly I'm just throwing darts at a board, man. They got to win.
It's to be honest with you, and I said it in my post-game reaction video last night, I'm starting to just get zapped. Like, my energy right now is just drained from this losing streak. And maybe just getting on the plane is a way of resetting it. I said it on yesterday's episode. I'm like, please win Thursday so you can at least reset your vibes and reset your momentum before you head out west. They didn't do that. So now you just got to hope that they found something on the plane. They found something going in between time zones and whatever that might be, and they just got to get a win. I don't even care if it's ugly. Like, that was my thing with Thursday's game, the way that everything kind of flowed. And I mean, the base running gaffes and not necessarily clutch pitching from the bullpen. Like, at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? If you win, I don't care about any of this stuff. Just win. And they just need to win. And if they're ugly wins, that's fine. Because this team right now is 1-7. in one-run ball games, which was something that swung their way last year. We worried it might not swing their way this year, but come on, they're not going to be this bad in one-run ball games, which is a little bit of luck that really kind of dictates to that. But I think that there's a real shot here to get going. And this is kind of the point too. And I appreciate everybody for jumping in on the live show. We are going to continue with our Q&A coming up here in just a moment, but I do want to kind of cut this off for just a moment. Going to cut this episode into two. Appreciate everybody for joining. If you're listening on the audio feed or if you're watching here after the fact, make sure you check out our Q&A that's coming out a little bit later on. But until then, make sure that you are with us every single day along the way, because whether the Reds win or lose, we are going to be with you, because we are Locked On Reds every single day.